is the Marketing Mindshift podcast with Stephen Mueller.
Hey, welcome back to the latest episode of the Marketing Mindshift podcast. Today I want to talk about the importance of digging deeper. So when you first pick up the phone and you contact a marketing agency to improve your messaging, your website, advertising, or whatever you're seeking marketing help for, I like to think that there are two categories of marketing experts. It helps to determine whether a commodity-focused agency or a strategy-focused agency. Let's look at the first one. Commodity-based agencies are great at creating deliverables and then handing off the implementation back to you. Essentially what they're saying is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, we've created this flashy marketing deliverable for you, whether it be a website or video or whatever. And they're essentially saying, I hope you know what to do with this. I hope you have a good strategy behind it. I hope you know how to drive traffic to your website. I hope you know how to do lead generation. And we find that there's little value in that, and it's often disjointed, and I'll show you a visual of what I mean by that later. On the other hand, if you work with a strategy or outcome-based agency like my company, Synergy Creative, you get a trusted advisor who is interested in a long-term relationship. And we want to understand your entire business, not just create deliverables under your direction and then hand it off to you with no strategy. Strategic marketers take the time to understand their client's entire business by digging deeper into understanding their client's business. A strategy-based agency offers more value to an organization. It's more important that you partner with an external marketing agency or advisor for several reasons. First, it's because it's hard to see from the customer perspective from the inside looking out. I've been doing this for 20 years, and one of the most fatal flaws of marketing that many leaders make that I've seen time and time again is assuming that they're the target audience or that they think like their target audience. Now, while there can sometimes be some truth in this, and maybe your target demographic is really, you kind of fit into that profile, the truth is you will always care more about your business and your product or service than your customer will. You are biased about your business. You are biased about your business. And that's the simple truth. Remember, to be clear is to be kind. And when we can deal with truth and clarity, then you win. The best communicator wins. We learned that in an earlier chapter of my book, in an earlier version of the podcast. Tunnel vision, if you will. The faster that you can deal with this truth, that you will have bias on your product and service, the faster you can get through the truth by allowing an external partner to help you. Not only that, but marketing is such a wide umbrella that it's not realistic to expect one generalist internally or even externally to do what an experienced agency team of specialists in various marketing areas of specialty can do, and also at economies of scale. So let's recap point number one before we move on. It's important to dig deeper. An outcomes or strategy-based approach is more important than a deliverable or commodity-based approach. With an external partner is always better than internal resources that might have tunnel vision or a generalist approach. An agency or an outsourced team has specialist expertise, and we also have economies of scale working in clients' favor. A strategy-based consultant or agency like us will dig deeper not only into your external marketing, but your internal marketing as well. Let's move on to point number two. Not only will a strategy-based consultant or agency like us dig deeper into your external marketing, but also your internal marketing. Internal marketing is often overlooked by most businesses. For example, it's important to know whether your employees are truly engaged with your company because it affects the level and the quality of the service that they will provide your customers. Having a fancy, flashy website with all the bells and whistles won't matter if you don't have a plan to drive consistent traffic to it, or you don't have a lead generation mechanism on it, or if your employees who provide your services aren't fully engaged with their job. Just as a doctor can't properly diagnose a medical condition without running blood tests, x-rays, or other testing, strategy-focused agencies will need to dig deeper into your business to see if there are disconnects with the internal messaging or an internal messaging, how employees are treated, or what they really think of their employer if they know there are no repercussions. One of the strategic issues we take the time to explain to and really learn from our clients is that it is just as important to market the organization to their employees as it is to their customers or target audience. Employees, not just management, should be involved in the marketing audit process so that they can provide input that will likely skew differently than the management team's input. Employee input from the audit process will create greater buy-in once the revised marketing deliverables are revealed. What do I mean by that? I don't mean have too many chefs in the kitchen and ask everyone's opinion on something every time you have a marketing deliverable, whether it be a flyer or brochure or a website or a social media post. But we need this information, this qualitative and quantitative information in the early stage of really diving deeper into your company to know where the strengths and weaknesses and other disconnects are. That's not, again, to say that they need to be involved in every marketing conversation. So don't confuse the two. Also, don't be a lousy leader. Leadership mentor Michael Hyatt, very well-renowned author, he created a list of top 10 characteristics of lousy leaders, 4 of which explain why it's so worth it to work with a strategy-focused agency when you seek their counsel on marketing issues. Number 2 on his list of 10 characteristics is that lousy leaders assume that they always know best. As you know, it takes confidence to lead an organization, whether it's big or small. As a small business owner or a marketing executive, I'm sure you have a lot of confidence, but did you know that it also takes humility to do your job well? Michael Hyatt says it bluntly. Many leaders think that they're confident when they are really just pig-headed and proud. Articulating a clear vision is so important that it also made Hyatt's list. Your employees don't want to follow what you do if they've been left in the dark. Engage them. That's why number 7 on his list talks about the importance and impact of enrolling others in these initiatives. And a revised marketing strategy and a website are huge initiatives. Nothing good will happen if a business owner just expects or assumes that their employees will follow them just because they're the boss. Articulate a vision that engages your employees and your business will flourish. We talked about it earlier in my book and in another podcast, The Best Communicator Wins. The 4th characteristic that Hyatt says is a sign of a lousy leader is when they're blind to what's happening in their own organization. As much as possible, be an open book with your employees and marketing agency as well. Not only do you hire an agency such as us for our wisdom, but also our creativity. For us to, or any agency like us, to effectively promote your business, we have to understand your business. Let's recap point number 2 real quick. We learned a lot there. Internal marketing and marketing your team is just as important as your external marketing. This is often overlooked. While you don't want too many chefs in the kitchen, it's important to have a clear, unified message with your team, as well as the marketing message that they're conveying to your customers. Never assume your employees know as much or as passionate as you are. Be intentional and clear on what you want them to know, how they fit into the bigger picture, and what you want them to communicate to your customers or public. Just because you said it once doesn't mean they heard you. Repetition is key. And let's move on to my final point today. Point number 3 is holistic versus piecemeal philosophy. Now, as a marketer, it's critically important to understand both the culture as well as the financials of a business. It helps us create a holistic marketing plan rather than one that is just piecemeal. When we understand a client's culture, it takes time, often 30 to 90 days. But by taking that time to understand your business's culture, financials, processes, it allows us or the marketing agency time and a strategy to be specific rather than vague. That's why I always prefer to work with businesses that understand the importance of thinking long-term and aren't just looking for a quick fix. Businesses are always growing and evolving and pivoting, so a quick fix will not serve your long-term problem. You've also got to have enough skin in the game to make a difference in your marketing efforts. If your marketing budget is small, your results will likely be small. If your marketing team is not centralized, it's unrealistic to hold anyone accountable for the outcome. An experienced strategy agency will take the time to help your business overcome issues that may be preventing your business from making more money. Us strategists know that when people are passionate about what they do, they will be more creative, more engaged, and more willing to do whatever it takes to please a customer and collaborate with their colleagues. Now, when we talk about it's unrealistic for a one-person generalist to fill a number of specialist roles, or why a holistic approach is more beneficial than a piecemeal strategy, I've created this graphic to better explain the concept. On the left, the bright blue side, you'll see circles in various sizes and directions, excuse me. And each circle represents a marketing tactic. It could be website, social media, something more traditional like print ad, TV, radio, or it could be a number of things. It doesn't really matter. But the bigger the circle, as you can see on my screen here, represents more resources going into it, that effort. And that usually means time or money, although it can mean other things as well. As you can see on my screen, the circles are scattered all over and kind of going their own direction, which is exactly what that represents. Maybe you've got someone doing your website and they represent one circle. Maybe you do the social media yourself because you don't understand why you should pay someone to manage your social media. And then maybe someone else designed your logo or branding collateral, sales collateral, whatever. It doesn't really matter what the tactic is, but how do you hold someone accountable when you've got different parties involved, all going in their own direction with different resources, different experiences? It becomes difficult. And as you can see, the outcomes on the screen there are why this is an inefficient and not an ideal approach to your marketing efforts. It's short-term focus, it's difficult to measure, it's time-consuming. It's not what smart strategic companies do. On the flip side, where we like to start with our clients is starting at the end goal in mind and helping reverse engineer a plan to get there. We call this aligned approach to marketing. And as you can see on the darker side of my graphic, all the circles are the same size. They're all moving in the same direction. That doesn't mean we can't have multiple third parties involved necessarily, but someone is guiding the conversation or the steering the ship or whatever analogy you want to use, right? They're all moving in the same direction. That's because we started at an endpoint. We implemented some of those things we talked about earlier in the podcast, like making sure every player on the team understands their role, how it fits into the bigger picture, right? So maybe we still need another person managing the website or the social media or whatever. But this advisor, the strategic advisor, like an agency like ourselves or a consultant like myself, is kind of guiding the conversation and making sure that everyone understands how they play a part in this bigger picture. Maybe we're spending too much resources over here and not anything over here, or not enough. And there might be something over here that you haven't thought of as low-hanging fruit that your brand could easily win market share on. So we identify these opportunities and we help get things back in alignment. And as you can see, this creates more consistency. It's more long-term focus. It's more strategic. It's easier to measure, and we help determine what metrics that you should be looking at. It gives you more insight as a business owner and leader to make better data-driven decisions. All these different benefits come into play, but very few companies really will be honest with themselves enough to allow these more strategic, time-tested principles in. A lot of times, we often see small business owners or leaders make the mistake of they want to be all things to all people, or they want to wear so many hats where they're not really trusting the experts. And so, again, take that point, use that, and leverage that. That's how the big companies get large. They understand scalable, repeatable processes, and they learn to trust the expert. And kind of going along with this same point, a strategy-based agency knows that everything that the brand image touches will affect the customers, the employees, and the overall health of the organization. So kind of tying everything in we just talked about. That's why it's so important that the brand message that is created for a company matches the true intentions of the business. If it doesn't line up, the graphic on the left, it's unclear. And as I've said before, time and time again, I wrote a chapter in my book, and I've also had a podcast episode dedicated to this topic. To be clear is to be kind. And it's for these reasons that I made it a clear, intentional choice to build our business with a 3-step, holistic-based approach. And we'll talk about these 3 steps in the next few episodes, where I'll break down each step one by one at a time. But for now, let's recap on what we learned today. 1, it's important to dig deeper. Busyness does not equal productivity. It's more important to have an external strategic advisor or partner rather than just someone who can create but not give strategic advice. Internal resources can be biased or have tunnel vision. 2, internal marketing is just as important, if not more important, than your external marketing. Too many companies ignore or don't even think about their internal marketing. Don't be one of them. Be intentional, clear, and specific on what you want your team to know, how they fit into the bigger picture, and exactly what you want them to communicate to the public. Just because you said it once doesn't mean they heard it. And 3, a holistic approach is better than a piecemeal approach. When your tactics and efforts are scattered, it's hard to control the desired outcomes. Also, A little investment yields little results, while bigger investments yield bigger results. It's important to have enough skin in the game. Make sure to join us on the next episode where we'll talk about brand awareness, what it is, what you need to know about it, and how to grow it.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Mindshift podcast. If you're enjoying learning from Steven on this podcast, please be sure to show your support by rating, reviewing, and subscribing on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Please make sure to also share this podcast with your friends on social media. If you're looking for more resources to help take your business growth skills to the next level, or for a copy of Steven's book, you can find that at getstevensbook.com. Thanks again for tuning into the Marketing Mindshift podcast with Steven Newland.
Order your copy of the Marketing Mindshift at getstevensbook.com and follow us on social media at Synergy Creative and at Steven Newland.